Welcome to today's New Life Live podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by you. Your donations make this podcast possible. Please consider donating today using the New Life app, visit newlife.com, or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hi there. Thanks for joining Chris Williams and Dr. Sherry Keffer and myself, Steve Arterburn, here on New Life Live. I want to start. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Chris. I'll start with saying hello to you.
We got a runway today.
Yes.
Like, woo, we're just jumping in.
My wife told me that there was something that I needed to watch, and I forget which platform it's on, but it is a documentary on 9/11, and it's all the people that were involved, and they're interviewing them now 20 years later. And I just think it's one of the most telling documentaries I've ever seen. You really get the thinking that was going on. George Bush was in front of a little classroom, and the first plane hit the building, and of course he thought that was they even said it was like a pilot in a private airplane hit it, and he thought that was an accident. And then the second plane hit, and then he knew we were under terrorist attack. And then when the third plane hit the Pentagon, that's when he said we were at war instantly, something like that. Of course, the fourth plane with Todd Beamer on it went down in a field because they decided they were going to rush the cockpit, and they crashed that plane, but rather than wherever it was going to land, White House, Capitol, whatever it was. So it's a great documentary. I can't recommend it enough. I think it's on Netflix, actually. It's worth finding and watching. But I just want to say this. We've created a holiday. It's tomorrow. It's called Patriot Day. And 2,977 people were killed, but many more injured. Many more have died since due to the cancer. They were right there at ground zero and the fumes and stuff, and they developed cancer from it or other illnesses. And I just ask all of you to pray for them, that God would be with them, they would sense God's presence. And we are so grateful for all of those who stepped in, and we're so sad that somehow we weren't able to prevent this. But fortunately, nothing on our grounds here in the U.S. in 20 years has happened. So that is the good news of it all. So we pray for all of you that have involved in any way with that horrible, horrible event, 9/11. And if you're like me, you know exactly what you were doing, where you were, and it is just such a tragedy. Well, we have some calls lined up, and we're going to go to those calls. Why don't we just start right now, and I'll talk with Larry from Tipton, Michigan. Larry, you're on. How you doing today, and how can we help?
Yeah, I got a question about faith and grace and your works. I'd heard a lot of sermons on you can't go to heaven just through your faith. You have to have works. Well, that seems like there's two things that contradict each other, because you're saved by faith through grace alone.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm kind of getting confused on that.
All right. I'm glad you called. It's a great question, and we're going to give you I hope we'll give you some insight into this. But first, we have to take a break. You're listening to New Life Live, and our website's newlife.com. Our 800 number is 1-800-NEW-LIFE. People call us every day who are confused or they're hurting. I've been confused all my life. I literally used to think if you were a liar, your pants would actually catch on fire. So you're not alone in your confusion. You call us if you need help. We'll take a break and come right back with our calls on New Life Live. We're back. Steve Arterburn here with Dr. Sherry Keffer. She is the author of Intimate Deception. And Chris Williams, yet to author anything, even though we are badgering him to get these beautiful
years.
thoughts right there.
It's okay.
in writing.
He did it to me first, and now he's just badgering me. But you'll get it out. We'll all celebrate.
You will. Nothing in your life. So if you truly have faith, you're going to be involved in some things, reaching for other people. You're going to see some character developed if you're truly working through your life, problems, struggles, roadblocks. There's going to be some and the truth and the life. And if you have some works to go along with it, you can get to the Father. No, it was Him and Him alone. And I really believe that. John 3:16 doesn't say anything about works. Romans 10:9 just says, if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that God has raised Him from the dead, thou shalt be saved, in the old King James. That's all it takes, is faith to enter into eternal life. When we put that faith to work, that's when meaning and purpose take over, and we have evidence of faith. And I'll tell you, if you're like me, once you start reaching out and helping people, you get addicted to it, and you never want to quit. So I'll turn it over first to Chris, your thoughts, and then Sherry.
Well, I just think that, this has been a question that has been debated for, literally in Christendom, thousands of years, a couple thousand, if not a few hundred. So, Larry, like Steve said, you're not alone. These things are confusing. And I do believe that there is a faith to trust that God knows what He's doing, and that as we sincerely seek Him, as it also says in Romans, that He will reward us. But one of the things about, I'm quoting Dallas Willard here, that says about grace. Grace is opposed to earning, so there's not an exchange here, right? Or is opposed to earning, but grace is not opposed to effort. Okay, so as we're living out our faith, as it has its impact on us, it will show up in the way that we live our lives. It will show up in our decisions. It will actually, I think, a lot of times show up just in us engaging in the struggle against our own sin, the struggle of the sin in the world, and the struggle to live out this close relationship with God and live out His will for us. And so that's the impacts or effects of faith, in which we effort tremendously towards those ends, but we're not earning heaven as a result of it.
Sherry, a thought from you.
So, Larry, were you asking this question because there's something inside of you that is concerned about not having your salvation secured, or someone you love?
Well, yeah, about my salvation, because I struggle with sin every day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I fall down, I get up. I fall down, I get up. And I think, well, man, I'm past 64 already, and I still struggle with sin big time in my life. And I think, man, and I work a lot, and it's hard to do a lot of work in the church or like I used to. And maybe I'm not a good enough witness. I always looking at myself, because I think, man, the way I think, it's just not good sometimes, and
yeah,
I must not be saved. Maybe something's wrong with my faith.
So get it. You've just spoken to two other human beings, or three of us, I guess, because we get it,
yep.
right?
Yeah, we do.
And that's the dilemma. There are sometimes the sins are really more about bondage, like having been married to a pastor who struggled with sexual integrity, pornography, and those kind of things. He was caught up in bondage. And I had some pastors on staff with us say, I think Connor isn't saved. And it threw me into a tailspin. For me, Larry, that has kind of secured my heart is also in Romans. And it's this. It says the gifts and callings
do is it buries us in shame and then isolates us even more, and it cancels us out from feeling like we're worthy or afraid to be found out. But what we need the most is the thing that we're resisting the most, and that is authentic relationship with other people.
Yeah. And God.
Absolutely.
Right? All the hidden sins make us feel...
My wife and I, we completed the one-year Bible for women. She did that, and I wrote 37,200 words of commentary on the one-year Bible for men. In February, I open up, and in the Old Testament passage, there's God's high priest Aaron worshiping a golden calf. It doesn't get much worse than that. Yeah. You're called to be the high priest for God, worshiping a golden calf. Same day, I turn over to the New Testament passage. It's Peter denying he had ever met Jesus. He walked with Jesus, served, ministered, watched him do miracles, and when it comes down to it, he says, never met him. You don't get much worse than that. So here's the high priest in the Old Testament. Here's Peter, the rock. He's going to, be the one that really establishes the bride of Christ, and he's absolutely saying, never met her or him. Well, did God remove the calling from either of those? No. God restored Aaron, and he remained the high priest. It's that there on the same day in the one-year Bible. But two amazing examples of horrible failure and sin, and the calling was still there. But, sometimes we don't allow ourselves to be restored back to our calling, because we think we've gone too far, sinned too much, something like that. Not true. And all of those who have made a bad hire here or there, God chose Oklahoma. And let's talk to Mary. Mary, I was just there in Oklahoma City last week, and wow, what a great state you have there. How can we help you today?
Oh, great. Thanks. This is for Sherry. I really appreciate her open and honesty about triggers, and I've held on to a couple of things you've said. One, I heard you say that, I don't know if it was in a video on the app or something, you were saying it's hard for you to go to the beach, or it was, because of what Connor did. And then I heard you say to a caller the other day that, I'm sorry, I'm really nervous.
Oh, you're doing great. Doing great, girl.
I'll just go on with my question. A counselor recommended, because I'm still being triggered by my husband's infidelity a majority of our marriage, and it's been 3 years and he's done nothing wrong since. It's just, I had no idea. There was no way I could have found out because it was all porn, and so it was all in his head. And so I set very big boundaries around him, and they're very, very, I know they're strict, but he abides by them. But it's made us very restrained. And so my counselor suggested, and I did too, flooding, as in, let's just go to a park and let's just go through it together. It's just, my biggest fear is I never knew what was in his head. And I just feel like it's hard for me to trust what he's telling me, even though he has been faithful for 3 years. But do you agree? I kind of want to do it. I just want to rip the Band-Aid off. Do you think that's a good idea?
Well, let me say this. Thank you for being so honest and sharing your heart. Do you know how many women and men who've been betrayed right now are listening to you and saying, hey, Mary, I totally get it. I'm glad you asked that question. Because truly, it's not uncommon to have these triggers from the very thing that violated us. And in your mind, right, it's his mind. Mm-hmm. It's what he looked at with pornography. But it's this thing that's inside of his skull that you can't, there's nothing you can do to control that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm going to be honest, I am still triggered. In fact, my husband, Kyle, who I call my kinsman redeemer, we were just 2 weeks ago walking down Main Street in a beach city. And before we went out to lunch with some friends at home, I said, you know what, honey, I'm already gearing up. Because I know in the summer, in this beach city, walking down Main Street, there are going to be, women that are scantily dressed, right? So I ahead of time said, when that occurs, would you kindly put your attention on me or look away. Can you do that? Can you protect my heart? And he wanted to. He did. And so we were walking down, and I'm going to keep this PG, but basically there was a woman who, I don't know if she got dared to do this by the guy she was with or what, but she was in underwear, bra and underwear. And I saw her from about 20 feet away, and I started to shake. My heart started to pound. Well, Kyle looked at me, and he looked into the window. Like there was a window in a store, and he goes, wow, look at those mannequins. They are really, they're standing there. I mean, he started talking about stuff that didn't really matter, but you know what? He could have said watermelon, 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 and looked away, and I would have been happy. That's how they can protect us. Now, when it comes to me, guess what I had to do, girl? I had to go in and do some trauma work because my brain had wired in a negative belief that sounds like this. I can't trust anyone. And so my negative belief, that shame belief, was activating me even to anticipate what was going on. And I had to do some EMDR around that.
So glad you shared that, Sherry. I want to talk to you about that after this.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here. And, you know, one of the things that I love about Sherry, she shares honestly, openly about everything. And here she was saying, I was triggered and I needed to go do some more work. If you've got symptoms, you can shame yourself. You can say I'm weak or bad or whatever. But why not just say I need to do some additional work? For us in the helping professions and ministries, it's just natural. Well, I got to work on that. There's something came up that I didn't know it was there. And so that's what we want to see every person do. I'm just wondering if there's anything else that we want to say that might be helpful to Mary in what she's dealing with. Let me say this first. Mary, I know you're concerned about what's in his head, right? But I got to tell you, we're always saying, it doesn't matter what a guy says, you need to watch what he does. It's his behavior that is proof of recovery, evidence of recovery or not. And here you're saying that he's been faithful for 3 years. And what you want to do is honor that by doing the work that prevents you, the work needed, because something's preventing you from accepting him as a new person and not literally dragging him back into the offense that was over 3 years ago. Well, our workshop, Restore, could really help you with that. Go ahead, Sherry.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Steve.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, his responsibility going forward is to be trustworthy, right?
Yeah, right?
But when it comes to our trauma triggers, and I can even hear it, Mary, just as you started telling me about what you're recommended to do, they've found that exposure therapy isn't really as effective as things like EMDR or brain spotting or other things that can go in and help you to deal with it in a safe setting. But like even my negative belief, I can't trust anyone, the opposite was I can choose whom to trust. But I couldn't get there in my head. I mean, that seems like a normal thought, just to, okay, that's the truth. But my brain wasn't gripping it. Well, it's because it was held in a trauma space, and I needed to do some work to get it to move forward so I could even put the truth in my heart, that I can choose whom to trust. I mean, because you're making choices every day about your husband. Can I choose to trust him? Is he being trustworthy?
And I just have to say this. I think the flooding idea is a terrible idea. I really do.
Yeah. Because
the thing that hurts you, so let's pour a bunch of toxins in the hurt and see how you respond. I don't like that at all. And so, like what Sherry was saying, let's go back in and see what's inside of me. Because the struggle that you're having, it feels external, but it's not. It's internal.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called. I want to send you a copy of Intimate Deception and Worthy of Her Trust. Both of those can be so helpful. And please look into our Restore workshop. It could absolutely change everything. Let's go to Bonnie. I want to talk with Bonnie, and Bonnie is calling us from Las Vegas, Nevada, KNLB. Hi, Bonnie. How are you today?
Hi, I'm okay. Thank you for what you guys do. I have called before, and you helped me tremendously. No, the situation didn't change, but just knowing the truth really released me from a lot of pain, familial-wise. So my two questions sort of related is, how do I deflect rejection and not let it devastate me? And how to know when it's time to give up the fight or hold on to the promise God gave me.
All right, so give us the specific. Who is it that is rejecting you?
Okay, so I feel like the last 8 years, 8.5 years, is like a condensed version of my life. My mom gave me away as a child, as a baby, as a newborn. And I came back to the fold and have been treated like an interloper ever since in my family. So 8.5 years ago, I was injured in a car accident. I was broadsided by a wall of 3 cars sitting at a red light and hit the window with my head and my shoulder and lost consciousness. When I woke up, it felt like my arm was falling off, and it has been 8.5 years of trying to get healthy. I have a surgeon who was planning to operate on me until he looked at the pictures of my insides, and it was, it's way worse than we thought. We need to get you to Mayo Clinic. So it's been fighting insurance for a couple of years. Now I've got everything I need to get to Mayo Clinic, and nobody knows where to put me because they've never seen anything like this. So God promised me healing. I know He promised me healing like years ago. So every time I go to like a new doctor, I think, oh, thank God it's over. This is the guy. This is the guy.
Well,
this is the guy.
I am so sorry for what you've gone through, still going through, and the music indicates we have to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to try to give you the best help possible. I'm really glad that you called. 1-800-NEW-LIFE is a phone number you can call. A gift of any amount. We will send you Dr. Dave Stoops' last book before he died, and that's Living Strong and Finishing Well, and he certainly did that. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll take a break and come right back for more of New Life Live. Glad you're here.
I was really living a very anxiety-filled life. I did go to Take Your Life Back. That's why I continue to support the ministry with the hope that not only am I helping my own situation, that I'm helping others as well.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the New Life member thank you gift of the New Life Journal, 100 Days of Peace, 7 Ways to Choose Healing, Growth Has No Boundaries, a Restoration Bible, and a New Life grocery tote to hold it all. Plus, there are ongoing benefits, like access to the Club New Life video library, the monthly Club New Life CD or download, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, and discounts on workshops. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. Glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back, and we're talking with Mary. Mary, are you still there?
It's Bonnie.
I'm sorry, Bonnie, are you still there? Sorry about that.
Yes.
Okay, Bonnie, I want to tell you a story.
Okay.
My 12-year-old has some friends in the neighborhood. And one of the friends told her that another one of the friends was saying some negative things about her. And you know what my daughter's reaction was, 12 years old. Now, you got to remember, no one feels shame because your daughter wouldn't react that way. Misty is an exceptional mother. My daughter's reaction was, well, Mom, this is not about me. This is about that person. And I'm going to call her and ask her what's on her mind. So she calls her, and it turns out that she hadn't been negative about her. It was another one of the people. And so she called that person.
Wow.
And let her know
Wow.
that she cared about her. And before it was over with, of course, now she's wanting to come over and play and do all this stuff. But my point is this, that I believe what's true in my daughter's life is true in your life. The rejection is not about you and who you are and what you're made of. It's about the rejectors. And what a sorry way to live, rejecting good people. I want to tell you something. In this entire universe, billions of light years wide and deep, there's only one place where life has been found. It's right here. And every life ought to be celebrated. We'll be jumping up and down because we won the lottery. We're living in the United States. Only 20% of the people on this planet are born in a free country. We have hit the jackpot. We ought to be so excited that everybody here is such a winner. We're encouraging them, not finding something stupid as an excuse to reject people. Sherry, you have some thoughts on this. I think I've finished my rant there.
Well, and I know Chris had. You want to go first?
No, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have another story, but it's a quick one. So Steve and I have a friend of ours who is just an exceptional person, and he ended up speaking in another country. He went there and went up 4 stories, was getting stuff ready in his hotel room, and a thief broke into his hotel room and shoved him out 4 stories to his death. Well, he didn't die, but he ended up with a traumatic brain injury, like you have, right? And he did whatever it takes. You remind me of him because there's a ton of courage when you're having to deal with this automobile accident that has changed some things about your brain. But he did something called Cereset. It's Cereset. And it helped his brain get out of freeze. Mm-hmm. It was in freeze. And because he couldn't function very well, and it helped it get more balanced again. So as you're making choices about where you're going, Mayo Clinic, just check it out. It might be something that would help you, like it helped Rick, our friend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I don't want to mention any names, but Rick Tansey is his name. And Rick, I went to Rick and I went through this, and it was so helpful. And if you're interested, we can connect you with him. There are centers around the country. But I would hope for you the result that he got. And a lot of people might say, wow, Steve, your brain, maybe he didn't do so well. Well, just think about what it would have been like if I hadn't gone, okay? Chris, you have something you want to say?
Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so I have an appointment at the Amen Clinic.
Oh, okay.
Just a consult. Consult first because they're my injuries that need surgery are in my body, not my brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But they're going to see whether or not it's good for me to go there.
Sure.
Because I don't know how much of my disabilities come from my dislocated parts or what comes from my brain.
I
So
totally
Right.
get that.
I'm desperate at this point in time, so I
Yeah.
called them. I made an appointment.
Well, you know we
But
love...
it's my collarbone and my shoulder blade and my rib cage are all displaced together.
Yeah.
Nothing stretched, nothing torn, nothing broken. Everything is just shifted, so my whole left side is higher than my right side.
Oh, sweetheart.
But here's the thing about you.
Telling me I should just trust God. I don't have enough faith.
No.
God really wanted to use a doctor. He would have done it by now. And
hey,
blah,
don't
blah,
listen.
blah.
Don't listen to that. Those who persevere and don't give up, those are the ones that receive the victory. And don't ever give up. I love it that you have an appointment, that you're doing something.
Yeah.
And there are some really unhealthy people that are saying some unhealthy things to you. And what they're doing is they're saying, wait, don't do anything, just stop and wish or hope when there's no grounds for hope. I think you're doing exactly what brings about a miracle in a person's life. You're doing what you can do, everything you can do, and then you're waiting for God to do what only God can do. And there are a lot of people that have quit altogether, and nothing is ever going to happen. So good for you. Keep going, and don't ever
I was just told to go home and enjoy what life I have left. And
that's a terrible message.
There's no fixing me, and somebody should have let me off the hook years ago. And I'm like, that's a lie. That's a lie. I'm telling you now.
We vote for that too. It's a lie.
I want to say this as clearly as possible. Who's ever telling you that message needs a hard boundary. Because that is a damaging message that is cruel.
Yeah, you don't want to be listening to that person. What Chris is saying, you don't want to be subjecting yourself to that person. So I'm going to send you one of my favorite books. I'm going to send you two books. I'm going to send you "Take Your Life Back" and "Healing is a Choice." And I'm very excited. We'd love to hear what happens at the Amen Clinic. And you tell them that we said to be very nice to you, and I'm so glad that you called. Larry Sonnenberg is in the studio, and Larry, you have something great for us today, don't you?
Yes, I do. I'm not going to tell you about workshops and how great they are and how much you're going to gain by it. And
what are you going to do, Larry?
I'm going to talk about this radio program.
Okay.
This is what a lady wrote to us. Her name is Dawn. As I was driving one afternoon, your radio program came on, a glimmer of hope. Out of desperation, one day I called your number, and the most loving, understanding person on the other end of the line ministered to me. I needed help with my own depression, as well as help strengthening my trust in God to do His work in me, as well as being able to help my children and my marriage. I learned so much from New Life Ministries through listening to the radio program, receiving books and information through the mail. Later in my life, when I was earning some money, I began to support New Life and have been supporting you ever since. And now everybody listen to this line, because I believe that your ministry helps so many people that it should never go away. And I love that. And I hope you feel that way, folks. We think that because we see what the Holy Spirit does. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
And I just want to make sure people know that was not from my mother. That was a real live listener to us, and we're so grateful for Dawn and her words. And, you know, there is a way that there would always be a new life, and that is that when you're thinking about a will and your estate and your legacy, you put us in there, and people have begun to do that.
Steve, let me tell you a story real quick.
Okay, yeah.
A lady, we opened the mail one day a week or two ago, and it was a small envelope. There was only a check in it, no note, and they opened the check, and $300,000 was in it.
Wow.
And they came running to my office to show me, and I called the lady that made the gift, and she said it was part of my dad's gift to my sister and me. He left us an apartment complex that I worked with for many years, and we decided to sell it. And when we sold it, I thought I need to share my portion of this with New Life.
Wow.
So
that's
if you
amazing.
folks come into money in so many different ways, and I hope you remember to share it. It's biblical to want to tithe and to want to give and to want to help others.
And you know, Larry, you've heard me say this so many times in the past few months. It feels like we're just getting started, and some of the things that have just come our way recently really make me feel like we're just getting started. Exciting things. And if you can support us in what we're doing, it's all about transformation. God's truth, transforming people, and taking back this confused, horrific culture where 60% of 18 to 39-year-olds say they're born-again Christians, but you could get to heaven through Buddha or Muhammad. Well, they're not born-again Christians. They don't even know it. What a horrible thing. But we can take that back, and that's what we're here for. We believe in truth. If you can help us, it's transformation and truth. That's what we want to see. We'll be back after this.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here, and let's go to Dee. How you doing, Dee? Thanks for holding on there. What's going on in your life today?
Hi. Oh, my goodness. Cannot believe I'm talking with you.
Me either. But
we're pinching ourselves, too, Dee.
90s. I was listening to y'all in the 80s and 90s.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, thanks for continuing to do that. How could we help you? I don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to get to your call since you've been holding since the 80s and 90s. Yeah, go ahead.
Don't even get me started on that one.
Okay.
Okay, well, the bottom line is, let's see, let's try to make a long story short. I have 4 children, adult children. My second daughter, in her 30s, she's pregnant unexpectedly, and the baby's daddy is not just a narcissist, but a psycho-narcissist. Mm-hmm. And I was a single parent with her, not by choice. Prince Charming traded us in 2002, and I was raising them on my own, and I have a son with disabilities, too, to add to the mix. Long story short, she's been so incredibly hostile towards me to the point of basically no return except God. And right now, my question is, with her, she'll be due in November. She's actually been in communication with her father, and they're just really tight now, and she's continually pushing me out to the point where she is saying that she's thinking of ways that I'm going to take the baby off of her, which is the most ludicrous thing in the world. The bottom line is she's having a baby shower Sunday, and she told me to get lost out of her house about a week and a half ago, and I traveled to visit my family, and I'm trying to come back because I have friends that are coming to the baby shower, and I want to be able to help her as well. I'm not trying to kiss her rear end, so to speak, but the thing is that, there's always reconciliation, but the thing is that I need to respect her own boundaries, and for some reason, beyond me, she despises me. And now she's in hunky-dory. She's moving in with her father. Actually, she's selling her house. It's been very painful, to be honest.
What would happen if you called your ex and said, I know there are a lot of things we've been through, hard feelings and all of this. Is there any way you'd be willing to talk to her about letting me go through this, coming to that baby shower? Is there any way that you could help me? What do you think would happen if you asked for his help?
Well, honestly, I actually did communicate with him last year when I was it seems like last year. Oh my gosh. Last week with my sister present, and because we have another daughter in New York City that's literally dying of an drug addiction. It's a nightmare life, but God is awesome, and He's going to come through. The point being is He warned me not to communicate at all with Rebecca. Do not communicate at all with Rebecca. And that was it. So, but you know what? I'm going to take your advice. I'm going to call him back, and I'm going to say, you know what? Would you consider calling your daughter that you're talking with all the time, asking if I could go to the baby shower?
Well, if it's going to be effective, you're going to have to do it in a spirit that he can accept, and I suspect that's going to be difficult. Let's hear from Sherry and Chris, see what they're thinking might work here or help in some way.
So if Rebecca, if Rebecca was sitting right here what would Rebecca tell us is one of the reasons that she's uncomfortable coming to the baby shower? What would she say?
Well, I can't speak for her, but my only myopic communication from her towards her, she says that she despises my voice. When she was a teenager, she was held incorrigible before she turned 18. She's been very difficult to deal with. Be honest with it. She's a I don't want to be disrespectful to her, but I'll just say her father was a narcissist, very huge. Not just that, just sociopathic as well, and it's been kind of documented.
Right.
And she is a little bit like that, but she also said she's afraid because of the police being involved with the life with him. I had to call the police on him at different times. He had me arrested for throwing an apple.
So there's been
12 years of abuse.
There's been tremendous power struggles between you and her dad. And trauma, but power struggles. If he's a narcissist, there's something called a smear campaign, which happens where narcissists really work to get that child into their good graces as a way of kind of exterminating the connection with you. But I'm going to follow up on something. I don't want you to just take that and not hear the second part, because I think the second part is even more important. I am picking up on the fact that you might be a controller. You might really struggle with not controlling or trying to fix or trying to rescue people. And I think your daughter's words and what you think she might say, I think they're accurate, because she feels like you push into her space too much, and it's overwhelmed her. And she needs to be able to feel heard and accepted and seen and loved in a different way. And that might be something that someone like me could help you with. Someone like me, a therapist who could be really bloody honest with you and say, you have the biggest heart in the whole world, but the way you try to communicate with your daughter is off-putting.
You have a point to a degree. I have a logo. I don't know where I pilfer it from. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. I'm that kind of person. I'm a very strong personality. I grew up with a lot of trauma myself. I'm looking at the book Healing Trauma Through Self-Parenting, and it's been beautiful.
Okay. Well, let me just say this, that was what I was picking up on when I said you need to select the tone, because the tone you were using, if you had called him and said that, I don't think he would have responded to that. And so what we're saying is there needs to be a change in you that makes you inviting. It's an amazing word, inviting. Chris, what are your thoughts here? We don't have much time.
D, this is hard, but it's important. When you have in relationships a lead, follow, or get out of the way, guess what people are going to do? They're not going to get run over by your leadership, and they're not going to follow a runaway train. They're just going to get out of the way. And so there has to be...
With all due respect, I disagree with that, because I deal with a lot of people from all walks of life. I have, as I mentioned, a son with disabilities, and I actually I'm like a magnet to people who, in different various components, various socioeconomic levels, and people do respect. I help.
Okay, so
medical
here, let me. Yeah, you're doing all of this, but
you use it well in certain circumstances.
Yeah, sure. I could use
great.
it in my business, but in my close relationships, and I'll just land it here because we're almost out of time here. Is that if someone views me as a psycho-narcissist or someone close to me, and I pick up on, hey, they really think that I'm difficult to deal with, then I am going to protect myself against that. Now, I may be difficult to deal with, and I may be a psycho-narcissist. But what I'm saying is that when we weaponize those labels and we treat people as such, they are going to withdraw from us. And so we must find a more positive way to approach them and to see them in a different light.
Yeah. Well, we are out of time. I'll I'll send you a copy of Take Your Life Back. I hope that will be helpful to you. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. If you can help us or you need some help, call us. Check out our Repurposed Life Conference at newlife.com. That's the 25th of September. We love you. See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again on Monday for New Life Live. Today's podcast can be downloaded through iTunes or streamed through your mobile device using the New Life app. Visit newlife.com to download the app today.